Hi folks, I'm Phil Newton, developer of Trading Strategies, which provides real-time training and education. This video shows some highlights from my live training sessions. Hi folks, welcome back. We've followed on from the last video, which is basically identifying a location of interest on the chart. Basically not just any support and resistance level, but where we could see a significant change in the balance of power based on when it changed historically. Now, in the first video, the live price was around about this location here, and what we identified was a period where price just paused very briefly in this upward movement. Now, this could quite easily have provided a location on the chart where, if history repeated itself, we saw a very brief pause before either a turn in price or a continuation in price. So basically try to think about when price gets to these locations of interest, what will happen there? There's only three things that can happen. Price will pause, consolidate, it will turn, reverse, or it will continue at the locations. So thinking about these locations on the chart as periods where the next something will happen. But rather than form an opinion about a direction of what will happen at that location, think of it just as a location of interest where the next something will happen. So what we've got on the chart, we've got the same areas marked off on the chart. This area just here, this was identified by, first of all, identifying this movement down as a significant change in the balance of power. This location here was identified as the stopping point for this change in the balance of power, this movement up there. So that's how we've got these two most recent points on the chart. So what we can see, again, we discussed the turn in price at the previous balance of power looking back across the chart. And what we have now is price selling off once again back down to this previous support level where historically the balance of power has already proven to have changed dramatically. So could we then assume that the next something to happen will develop at this location? Now, whether that is a consolidation, we can already see that price is just pausing at this location. So we've got this zone here now as a potential future launching point, the starting point for the next something to happen should price return to that location. What will happen right now? Well, either price will, not unsurprisingly, it will either go up from this location or price will sell through this location. It's only going to do one of two, well, to be fair, one of three things. Pause, price is already pausing at that location. So the next something to happen will either be up or down. It's nothing really much more complicated than that. So this now is an area where whatever your strategy is can be deployed. Whether it be to look for a long trade or a short trade, your strategy will take care of that. But this is going to be an important area for the next something to happen. Now, where's it likely to get to? Well, if price goes up, the most logical place for price to get to is back up to this previous turning point, the change in the balance of power. And if price sells down, what we could initially see is, I think I'd eyeball first of all, price just to basically come a little bit deeper into this zone, the lower zone, first of all. Price might just come back into it and then essentially turn back around again. But if price does go through this location, it would be a case of look back across the charts. Again, scroll back through your charts to see where the previous change in the balance of power was, looking back through your charts historically to see, well, if price goes through this 105.50, 10600 location, price could get to the next significant change in the balance of power, and that's your area of interest of where price could stop should price go down. So if price goes up, down or sideways, price is already sideways, it's either going to go up or it's going to go down, Where's it going to get to? The logical choice is the previous change in the balance of power. So should it go up, should it go down? Nothing more complicated. From a strategy point of view, again, it's just trying to identify a location to deploy a strategy. So whatever strategy you're using, when obviously it gives the indication to either go long or short, that's obviously the best time and the best location to deploy a strategy. Hi folks, coming back to the charts at a clearly later point, just updating the analysis of what to expect from some very simple and easy discretionary technical analysis to try and identify support and resistance. So what we can see on the chart is this previous support zone acting as that next launching point for the next move. And very simply what we can see is price running upwards. My own strategy started to get me long around this location here, but essentially running up to this previous launching point. This is where price on this upward movement stopped. That's obviously where the next push down started. So what we have is essentially price contracting. If we do a little bit of more obvious technical analysis, we've got price ultimately in a consolidation. Price is quite clearly winding up. We can put a more stereotypical name on this pattern and call it a symmetrical triangle if we so wished. So at what point could we expect the ultimate pattern to break out? More classical definition of technical analysis. Well, ultimately, if price goes through this zone here or goes below this zone here, I think it'd be safe to say that we'd be looking at a breakout potential on this particularly named pattern. That aside, just going back to something a little bit more loose and just trying to identify what could happen next. Well, firstly, price has rallied up to this previous starting point of the move down and obviously stopping point of the move up, and we can see the same type of price activity over here. So history is repeating itself. Now what we can see, look, this bar is not completed just yet, so it's still the life bar and shouldn't really be used to make any conclusions. But if it was to close as it looks right now, we'd be looking at something that resembles a shooting star. And again, we can see that same point on the chart there. We can see the same type of price activity there, where price has been turning at these previously identified locations of interest. So assuming that history repeats itself, could we then see the same thing? Could we see history repeat itself at this location? Well, certainly price is running up to this location, so it's all eyes on this next bar's completion. Or to be fair, we could see price rally. The next bar might be the one going into the next session, could be the one of interest, and we see history repeat itself. If we do see that, we could draw the conclusion that price could once again sell off. Now, I don't think the short side has that much potential in it, because we've now got a new location to consider where the previous balance of power has changed on this last upward movement. So there's not that much in it for price to actually come back down. There's obviously some potential there, but obviously we can see that price is contracting in the big scheme of things. So it might be worth just holding off, because the distance between price and the next location of interest might not be worth time invested. Certainly not for a big trade. Intraday opportunities definitely would be there. I mean, we do have around about 100 pips difference between the new location just here. Should price turn and go down to that level, or get down to the the 10700 location and turn around. So we do see price ultimately contracting and it's clearly reacting off these locations of interest where the previous balance of power has changed. Other scenarios to consider are, we could ultimately see price continue through these locations, and what's going to indicate price to continue? Well, opens and the closes at opposite ends of the bars. We basically see the bars with opens and closes at opposite ends, bars stacking up quite nicely at these locations. Another scenario is that price could get into this previous change in the balance of power and basically just pause at this location. We know what the pauses are going to look like, because if we look back at history and take a look at this point on the chart here, we've got down bar, up bar, very narrow range of price activity. Look at the bodies, the opens and the closes, very, very close together. Is there any point on the chart in history that looks very similar? Well, at this location, let's just look back across the chart. That's where the move started. Looking a little bit further back, we can see a similar area. So one of the scenarios that we might want to consider is that should history repeat itself, we could see perhaps 1, 2, 3, 4 bars on this time frame just pause at this location. We've already seen it happen down here. We've already seen it happen at that location there. Historically, we've seen it happen over here at the start of this rather large move down. So we could very well see price run up into the 109, 110 location, consolidate 3 to 5 8-hour bars, then the next something from that location develop. Another scenario, we've already covered it, we see a nice shooting star, a typical reversal bar if we wanted to put a label on it, but essentially a bar with a big spike on the candle could develop at that location, which might indicate a reversal at that location. So consolidation, 3 to 5 bars, shooting star, hammers, dojis, those types of reversal bars at this location, which might indicate a reversal as well, or certainly the start of the reversal at this location. Where could it get to? Well, it could go down. I don't know where it's going to go, to be honest. It could go down, but if it does go down, I'd be earmarking approximately the 107 location. If it goes up, again, if it goes up through approximately 110, the previous change in the balance of power, look back across your chart, see where price could get to, where did price previously start from, where did it stop. Those major dramatic changes in the balance of power are going to give you the indication of where price could get to next, and the next location of interest to assess for that next something to happen. From a strategy point of view, whatever your strategy is, that's a location for it to be deployed. That's it, folks. That's where I'm at. Let's see what happens on the next installment.